In programming, it is quite common problem to find specific character combinations or patterns from a string. For example, there is a string. RAM is an important part of computer architecture. So we might want to look whether this RAM substring exists in that string or not. Or another example is the doc application like Microsoft Word. It is quite common to search for a certain string and we want to replace it with another string in a given document. This kind of functionalities is facilitated by something called as regular expressions. If we look at the definition of regular expressions in MD and docs, it says that regular expressions are patterns used to match character combination in string. In general, if we want to do such operations, we can do it with some functions by writing, but it might be like lot of lines of code and it is not guaranteed that it is going to be efficient all the time. Regular expressions or regex help us achieve that with the help of their own specific syntax of meta characters, which we will be talking about. And it becomes very easy to do string parsing like searching and replacing and all those stuff. So every programming language provides us tools to work with regex, and so does Python. Python is a very flexible and powerful programming language. It is very easy to learn, and it has its own standard library called as RE, which stands for regular expressions literally. It provides us many functionality to work with regex. So today we are going to see exactly that, how we can work with regex in Python. So RE module provides us many functionalities, but we can get around working with regex using simply 4 or 5 functions, which helps us to do almost all regular expression things using Python. So we are going to see them so that we are quickly up and running with regex. So let's let's see those functions now. So we are going to import the RE library for that. Now, as I talked about regex, there are meta characters and its own syntax. But in Python, at least, the patterns and strings that we are looking for are Unicode string or byte string at the end of the day. So we can get by using normal string as pattern to find specific things in the given string. So when we are talking in terms of regex, there are patterns or the group of characters which we want to find in some string. Those patterns are called patterns only in regex terminology, and a string in which we are looking for that patterns are called test strings. So we are going to look at the first function that regular expressions provide, which is search. So let's see one example here. So this is the example of the search function. Search function takes 2 arguments. The first one is the pattern which we are looking for or we want to have a look at, and the second argument is the test string in which we are looking for that pattern. If the given pattern exists in the test string, it will return something called as match object, which has its own functions, and if it does not exist, it is going to return none. So in this case here, the coding pattern, and also it is quite good practice to use raw strings when you are looking for patterns, because it helps us to not write complicated escape characters that Python comes with. It helps us to only focus on the patterns that we are looking for. So in this case we are looking whether the coding pattern exists in the given test string. So here it exists, so it will return match object. So if we look at the result here, so it returned us the match object. And if we want to look for like what exactly the pattern was matched, we can call a function called as group from the match object, and it will return the pattern that was exactly matched, which can be seen here also. So this is the search function. So it looks for the pattern in the test string, and the first instance it finds that, it returns the match object. Similarly, if the pattern was not there in the string, so let's say the pattern was this, let's say the pattern was this instead. So here this pattern code does not exist in this string, so in this case the result will be none. So if we check whether the result is none or not, it is true. So this is what search does. Now we are going to look at another function provided by re module, which is re.match. Now for that we are going to look at some of the strings. We are going to set up some text strings. This is the first string. China is the most populous country in the world, which is in fact true, and we are going to write this same string in another way. Most populous country in the world is China. Here now we are going to have a look at the match object. So match also takes the two arguments, which is the first is the pattern in which we are looking for in the given string, and the second one is the test string itself. The only difference is that match only returns the result or match object if the pattern that we are looking for exists at the beginning of the string. Let me explain. So let's say we are going to find the pattern China in the first test string, which is S1. Here this pattern China exists in the beginning of the test string, so it is going to return the match object. If we look at it, yeah, we got the match object. But if we are going to test the same for this test string S2, we are not going to get it, because the China pattern does exist in the test string, but it exists at the end or in the middle, like not in the beginning. So in this case we are going to get a result as none. So this is the main difference between match and search. This can also be the thing that match does for us can also be done with search with you by using some by using a specific meta character, which is cap. So cap is the meta character which represents the pattern should match at the beginning of the string. Let's see one example. So here we use the match function. Let's use search instead, and to get the same effect as match, we just have to put the cap before the cap meta character before that pattern. So this means that whatever the pattern is there after the cap, it should exist in the beginning of the test string. So here this does not exist, as we saw in the match result, so we are going to get none. So this is the same effect of the match. Similarly, we have something called as dollar meta character, which only matches the pattern if it exists at the end of the test string. So instead of cap, we have dollar, which is always put at the end of this. So what this syntax means is that this pattern should exist at the end of the given test string, which is the case in case of S2. This China character does appear at the end of it. So we are going to get the match object this time. So we can use cap and dollar at the same time if we want to find if the pattern starts with that pattern and ends with this with that pattern. So in this case we are not going to get the match, because this string does not this test string does start with end with China, but it does not start with it. So in other words, we are also saying that this pattern is going to be matched with any test string if that test string is exactly equal to this pattern. So from this example, we saw two meta characters which have some special meaning in regular expressions. We are going to see more along the way. Now we are going to see the third function, which is find all. So what it does is that in case of search or match, if we were looking for a pattern and if we find the match, we are going to get the match object. But what if the pattern that we are looking for exists multiple times in the test string? In that case, we would want that and if you want to get the match object, we want to track how many times the match happened. What we do, we would use the method called as find all in that case. So let's see one example of that also. So if we see the example here, I'm going to show the example once. Yeah, so in this case we are looking for this pattern in this given test string. So we are using another meta character here called as dot. Dot simply represents an arbitrary character which represents any character except the new line character. The new line characters are slash r or slash n, which represents the new line character. So in this test string we can clearly see that and this also means that there is one single arbitrary character. So here the cat is also the string which satisfies this, because before 80 we have an arbitrary string which is not a new line. Similarly there is rat, there is bat, and also there is at, because before at we have a white space character which is not a new line character, so it should also match. If we enter this and if we check res, it will simply return all the matches that happened as a list. In this case also we applied search here. We were supposed to apply we have applied search here. So search just returns us the first match that happened, that is cat. And this is where find all is helpful, because find all will return us all the examples where this will happen. So if we look at the above example, in this case of search we got only the first character cat, and now we are going to replace it with the function find all. Now we are going to get all the instances. So this is the use of find all. The final function before looking at the syntax of the regular expression is something called as compile. So in all the examples that we have seen until now, or in all those instances we are looking for some examples in which the search function or match function or find all is going to be run all the time. But sometimes we have some specific fixed pattern and that we want to keep applying to many search strings. One example was here we wanted to apply China in case of two different strings, but every time we were running the match object we were writing the pattern that we want to look for, and we were checking the test string. We don't have to do that. We have something called as compile. So what we would do in that case is that we would create a regex object first, and then we will keep applying the whatever the functionality we want to run on it. So we are going to get the regex object by getting something called as pattern, and it will be re dot compile. So it will just compile the pattern for us. The pattern was China, for example. Now we have got it, and now if we look at the pattern, it is re compile object, which is actually the regex object. And now we can apply all those functions that we looked at before. For example, as this is the regex object, we can apply search on it. So we can apply pattern dot search, and let's say s1 is the string which had China. So if we look at it, it returns the match object. Similarly, we can also apply pattern dot match s1. It returned us the match object because China was in the beginning of it. If we apply the pattern matched with s2, it is not going to return us anything. So pattern is just the thing, is the regex object on which we can apply all the functions that we have seen until now. So only this much for this video. So this helps us, I hope this helped us to understand like how we can apply the regex functions that are provided to us. Pretty much everything can be done using only these functions, and we can do whole lot with it. After that, if we just learn the meta characters and the syntax of regex itself and apply all of those, we can almost solve every kind of problem with it, which we are going to see in the next video.